Everyone, it's Amy here. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing my top 10 books that I'm going to be rereading in 2021. I mentioned this in my recent goal kind of resolution video. I will link that around here so you can go and see that if you want to. The reason I wanted to set this as a goal for 2021 is because I watched a video by Marines at My Name is Marines, and I will leave her channel linked down below. And in that video she was talking about how much she enjoys rereading books and how often she does it as well. It just made me think that actually I have loads of books that I kind of label as my favourite books in my head, and actually I haven't reread them or kind of jumped back into them to see if I actually do still have that love for them. I used to reread books a lot as a child, and I would say before BookTube I used to reread a ton, but I haven't really done that in recent years, so I'm hoping to revive my love of rereading books. Let's jump into the books. All of the ones I'm going to mention I either gave 4 or 5 stars to, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing if they still get that same reaction from me when I actually reread them next year. So the first one is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is the first book from Austen that I read and I loved it. I've since read most of her other books. I think I've got one of her main novels left to read. But yes, this one I'm really keen for. I think it's going to be a really fun reread. Next we have Station 11 by Emily St John Mandel. This is an apocalyptic type book, so it's set during a pandemic and then years and years after that pandemic has kind of wiped out most of the people on the planet. There's quite an array of characters. You kind of follow lots of different groups of people and then how they all tie in together as one. I loved this book when I read it, and I've been meaning ever since then to pick up something else by this author because she has quite a number of books out and I've just never done so. So I'd love to hear if you've read this book, and also if you've read anything else from this author, if you'd recommend anything to me. Next up we have I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. Again, this is another one kind of like Jane Austen, that it's a classic that just gives me the warm fuzzies. This one follows a family who are living in the English countryside in a tumbling down castle, and it's narrated by a young girl called Cassandra, and the first line of this book is, "I write this sitting in the kitchen sink." And it's just fantastic. What I remember of it is fantastic anyway. Hopefully I love it as much as I did the first time round. Next up we have a book that I actually read this year in 2020 and I loved it so much. I did say I was going to try and read it by the end of this year, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do that now. But I am very keen to read it again in 2021, and that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I will be talking more about it in a video to come at the very end of this year. I wonder if you can guess what that video might be, but there we go, spoiler for you. Next we have the only YA book that I have in this video, and that is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. Ness is an author that I've loved for a really long time. I remember reading his Chaos Walking trilogy when I was quite a youngster. I was kind of waiting for each of those books to come out and I really enjoyed those. This is probably one of my favourite YA books that I've read in recent years, but I do wonder if I just read it at a time that was kind of perfect for the mood and what was happening in my life at the time. I don't know if it's going to be as good as I remember it being. I remember it being really funny and just getting such joy from reading it. So I'm very much looking forward to this one actually. It's going to be a fun one to reread, I think. Next we have another classic, and that is All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque. This was one of my favourite books of the year that I read it in. I can't remember what year it was, but this was brilliant. This one is set during World War I and it follows a group of German schoolboys as they are taken out of kind of school and they grow up and they are drafted into the German army. It follows them as they fight for their country, as they die for their country, and I remember being so incredibly moved by this book. Like it just made me feel something then, just thinking of scenes from this book and how much they affected me at the time and how much they made me think about war and just how needless and sad it is that there were these millions and millions of young boys being drafted from all countries to fight for their country and to just die. And it just, it's a good book. I have no doubt that I will love this one just as much because it's one that I really remember a lot from, and I don't often have such good memories of books. Next we have the only non-fiction book I have to show you, and that is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. Again, this one was a book that really shook me to my core when I read it. Extremely heartbreaking, probably one to read at a time when you know you're mentally capable of kind of reading a lot about death and very, very sad things. This book documents Paul Kalanithe's life from being a youngster and having aspirations and dreams to studying, being a medical student, becoming a neurosurgeon, and then finding out that he had inoperable lung cancer and that he was going to die. What I really loved about this one was that you often get these autobiographical books from people whose profession isn't writing, so they don't have literature degrees and all of that kind of stuff. So they're writing about what they know, but they don't necessarily know how to spin words, as it were. Now, something interesting about Paul Kalanithi that you learn at the beginning of this book is that he actually had a huge interest in literature and wanted to become a writer and wanted to write his own book. But he then had a bit of a crossroads before he became a medical student, wherein he decided whether he wanted to study literature or he wanted to go into neurosurgery. And he went down the neurosurgery route. But when he became sick, he decided that if I'm going to be sat at home and I'm going to be sick and I can't work, I'm going to write a book. Even just talking about it is actually making me feel quite emotional. So that was his goal, to write a book before he died. And that is what he did. The final two books are ones that I have reread many, many times, but I haven't reread them in the last few years. So the first one is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I love this book so much. It's translated from Spanish. It's set in 1945 in Barcelona, and it follows a young boy called Daniel, and he has a book that he has found from his father's antiques bookshop, and he has this book and it's called The Shadow of the Wind. He adores this book and he decides he wants to find other books written by this author. That is when he discovers that somebody is systematically destroying all of the books written by this author, and he doesn't know why, and there's a big mystery around it. There's mystery, murder, madness, doomed love. It is just, there is something for everyone in this book. I implore everybody to pick it up. It's so enjoyable. The translation is fantastic. I've read a few books from this author and it is without a doubt my favourite of them all. It's fantastic. Go and read it. And the final book I have to show you is probably one that I've reread the most, and it might surprise you guys, I'm not sure. It is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This book is so underrated, and I think it was very much under the shadow of the Twilight saga, and people almost saw this and connected it immediately with Twilight and so dismissed it. This book feels as if it's been written by a different author to that of the Twilight series, because this book is so good. From what I remember anyway, I haven't reread it in a good few years. It follows a race of alien type creatures who come down to Earth and take over the bodies of the humans and kind of push the consciousness of the humans out of their bodies so that they then just completely take control of the human's body. The main character is a lady named Melanie who has one of these alien type things come and take over her body, but Melanie puts up a fight and doesn't disappear like she's meant to, and so the alien type thing and Melanie are in this body. Melanie's trying to get it to do one thing, the aliens try to do another thing. The main things I get from this is the importance of your body, what it means to have a body and have control of your body, and it's just beautiful. I would recommend it. Those are all the books that I hope to reread in 2021. I would love to hear down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. Do you plan to reread in 2021? Come and have a chat with me. I'd love to talk. As always, I will leave links to everything I've mentioned today down below. All my social media links will be down there as well. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye!